Hello all, welcome to Paritranaya. In this class, we shall discuss about another important topic related to geography, that is major landforms of the earth. In the previous topic, we have discussed about the different domains of earth, that is lithosphere, atmosphere and hydrosphere. So in this topic, we shall explore more about lithosphere. So some parts of the lithosphere may be rugged and some flat. So what do we understand by rugged? If it is not smooth, this is called as rugged. Flat, this is flat. So some part of the lithosphere might be rugged and some flat. Next, landforms are the result of two processes. So what are the landforms? Landforms means different shape of the earth. So the earth is not uniform throughout the globe. So its form, it changes. Okay, it changes. So we'll be studying about those landforms. So why do we have different types of landforms? Because of the two important processes that are going on. One is internal process and another one is external process. So we know about the earth. So within the earth, internally, the process that is going on, we call it as internal process, and the process which we can see, that is external process. External process. Because of this internal process and external process, so we find different landforms. So what are the internal processes? So within this earth, there will be continuous movement that will be taking place. Okay, continuously movement will be taking place, but we cannot see. So because of the internal movement, what happens? It leads to upliftment and sinking. At some point of earth, there will be some upliftment. So probably it will become a mountain or a hill. And at some other place there will be sinking, so earth will sink. Okay, so here at this place there will be a hollow. Okay, a hollow region will be created. So this upliftment and sinking of the earth might happen because of the internal process also. Okay, internal process also. Similarly, this upliftment and sinking might also happen because of external process. So which are those external processes? Erosion and deposition. Erosion and deposition. So what is erosion? So on a surface we have many particles. It may be soil, or it may be small pebbles and all, stones and all. So whenever water flows through it because of rain, so when water flows through it, so all the minute particles of soil and other stones, they will be carried along with it, along with the water. It may be water or sometimes it may be wind. So when they carry these particles, so that process carrying along with them, that process we call it as erosion. Once they carry, so they have to somewhere, and it has to deposit somewhere. So that process we call it as deposition. Okay, deposition. So if this is the surface, then if there are particles present over here, water will flow through it. So water will take all these particles and finally it will deposit at a particular place. So where these particles have been deposited, slightly there will be an elevation. So from the place where these particles have been taken, slightly there will be sinking. So these external processes and internal processes together, they lead to different types of landforms. So which are the different types of landforms? We'll see the three important different types of landforms are mountains, plateaus and plains. Mountains, plateaus and plains. So next we shall see in detail the difference between the mountains, plateaus and plains, and also the benefits of mountains, plateaus and plains in detail. So first we shall begin with mountains. So we are all aware what are mountains. So any natural elevation of the earth's surface, we call it as mountain. Okay, we call it as mountain. So here is an example of mountain. So what are we noticing here? So this is the flat land. So from here there is an elevation. So such structures we call them as mountains. May have small summit and broad base. Okay, small summit and broad base. So summit means we are speaking about the peak. Base means we are speaking about this area. Okay, so there may be few mountains who may have small summit and broad base, and there may be few other mountains whose summit may be bit broad and also base may also be broad. Okay, so these are different examples of mountains. Next, considerably higher than surrounding area. An important feature of mountains is when you look at the surrounding area, so this part is elevated, so considerably it is higher compared to surrounding area. Some are even higher than clouds. So if you look at few mountains, they appear that they are higher than clouds as well. Okay, clouds as well. Example, Himalayas. Okay, Himalayas. Next, as one goes higher, climate becomes colder. So already we have seen this in the previous topic. So as we move to higher altitudes, climate becomes cooler or temperature comes down. That is why in summer season we look for a destination where we have less temperature. So generally we prefer mountain places, okay, hill stations. In some mountains, glaciers are present. These are permanently frozen rivers of ice. So we know that in some mountains we have glaciers, for example Himalayas, and these mountains they act as source for rivers because the glaciers melt and they provide water to rivers. Next, some mountains you cannot see, they are under the sea. So we have already seen about the different types of oceans, Indian Ocean, Pacific Ocean and all. So some of these mountains, they may be within these oceans, so they are submerged under the water. So we cannot see them. So because of the harsh climate, less people live in mountain areas. So when it comes to mountains, plateaus and plains, so more people will prefer to stay in plains. So why they prefer to stay in plains, we'll see later on. But most of the habitations, we have less habitation in mountain areas. Why? Because of the harsh climate. Okay, because of the harsh climate, so people they do not prefer to stay in mountain areas. Next, apart from that, since the slopes are steep, less land is available for farming. So generally the population concentration will be in a place where we can practice agriculture or irrigation or farming. So if the place is not plain enough, then it will be difficult to practice irrigation and other things. So that is why people will not prefer agriculture in mountain areas. That is why the population in mountain areas is very less. Okay, very less. Mountains may be arranged in line known as range. So a series of mountains, sometimes we refer to them as mountain ranges. So here there are a few important aspects that we need to understand from exam point of view. So almost every aspirant reads NCERT. So all of them, they go through NCERT. But when it comes to UPSC question paper, so sometimes we have seen the content in the NCERT, but we will be unable to answer the question. Why? Because what the UPSC expects is whenever you encounter a new thing, you should read it from exam's perspective, and whenever you encounter a new thing, it should arouse your curiosity. So what should be that curiosity? Whenever you come across the Himalayas, you need to know in which continent it is present, Asia, through which all countries it passes through. So all this extra information we have to add. Similarly, we have to add with respect to Alps. We have to add extra information with respect to Andes mountains. Okay. So that exercise we have to do, keeping the demand of the exam in mind. So keeping that in mind, so we have prepared the same. So first, Himalayas. So Himalayas, whether they are present only in India or they are also spread across the other countries as well. So if you look here, it is clearly visible. So Himalayas, as we know, they are spread in India, Pakistan, to some extent in Afghanistan, next in China, Nepal, Bhutan, and to a small extent in Myanmar. Okay. So from this point, we got to know that Himalayas is spread across multiple nations. Next, in the forthcoming classes, we also need to know about the various states in India. Across which Himalaya has its spread. Okay, Himalaya is present across which all states. Even that point becomes important, but later on we shall see. Now next, Alps. So Alps, again, these are mountain ranges in Europe, but where exactly in Europe? That is also important. So if you look here, so Alps are the mountain ranges which are spread across Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Austria, Slovenia, Italy, and France. So this information is important. Next, similarly, Andes mountain range. So we have already seen that Andes mountain range is in South America, and South America is also called as Latin America. So here also we need to know the number of countries across which Andes mountain is spread across. Mountain ranges is spread across. So it is present in Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, next Chile, Argentina. So again, all these things are important from exam point of view. Next, so often we come across a term called as hill and mountain. So what is the difference between hill and mountain? So there is no significant difference, so need not worry much about it. Okay, much about it. So generally a steep hill with an elevation of more than 600 meters is termed as mountain, but UPSC never focuses, okay, on such kind of questions, so need not worry about it. Okay. So next part is very important. So when it comes to mountains, there are three different types of mountains. Some of them are called as fold mountains, others block mountains, and volcanic mountains. So this topic is very important from exam point of view. So here, how fold mountains are created, block mountains are created, we'll be discussing later on. But here, the emphasis will be which are the mountains which are called as fold mountains, or we need to know the examples of fold mountains, examples of block mountains, and examples of volcanic mountains. So if you look at Himalayan mountains and Alps, so just now what we discussed, so these are examples of fold mountains. Similarly, they are young fold mountains. Himalayan mountains and Alps are young. They are not old, they are young. And they have mountains with rugged relief. It means when it comes to the external appearance, it is not smooth, it is rugged. And high conical peaks. It means they are conical. So peaks are very sharp. Next in this context, Aravalli Range in India is one of the oldest fold mountains in the world. Very important. Now in UPSC, what kind of questions they can ask? They may frame a question in this fashion. So they may make a statement like this: Himalayan mountains are block mountains. If they make this statement, it will be false, because Himalayan mountains are fold mountains. Another statement, in what way they can frame a question? They can say that Himalayan mountains are older than Aravalli Range. That is also false, because Himalayan mountains are young fold mountains, whereas Aravalli Range is one of the oldest fold mountains. So we need to understand that in what way we need to store this information. So Himalayan mountains and Alps, Aravalli Range, all of them, they are fold mountains. Compared to Himalayan mountains and Alps, Aravalli Range is oldest. Next, Appalachians. So when it comes to Aravallis, so this is a range which is present entirely in India. So such ranges which are present entirely in India, we need to have that extra information. What is that extra information? So in NCERT, generally we'll find just one line, but that would not be sufficient. From UPSC perspective, we have to explore more. So which are the various states across which Aravalli Range is spread? So it is spread in Gujarat, Rajasthan, Haryana, and Delhi. Totally, what? 4 states and union territories. Okay, 4 states and union territories. So even that extra information becomes very important from exam point of view. Next, has considerably worn due to process of erosion. So a lot of erosion has taken place in Aravalli Range, but not an important point. Okay, not an important point. Next, Appalachians. So where they are present? They are present in where? North America. They are present in North America. So North America, that is USA and Canada. So here we will find Appalachians. They are found in North America. Similarly, Ural Mountains, where they are present. So in the previous class we have seen. So Ural Mountains, they separate what? Asia from Europe. So these are Ural Mountains. So where they are present? They are present in Russia. Okay, they are present in Russia. Next, have rounded features and low elevation. So UPSC will not focus on these kind of aspects. It can be just ignored. So they are old fold mountains. Okay. So here we have seen that there are multiple fold mountains. The examples which we came across: Appalachians, Ural Mountains, Aravalli Range, Himalayas, and Alps. But among them, Himalayas are what? Young mountains, whereas Appalachians are old mountains. So all this information we have to retain from exam point of view. Next, so we discussed the first kind of mountains. The second kind of mountains are block mountains. Are created when large areas are broken and displaced. So when large areas they break, so small pieces will be formed. So erosion will take place. Somewhere they'll go and they'll be deposited, and there a new mountain will be formed. So such mountains we call them as block mountains. Okay, block mountains. Next, an example of a block mountain is Rhine Valley. We can find mountains in Rhine Valley in Europe, and Osts Mountain in France, Europe. Okay, so these are the example of what? Example of block mountains. So Rhine Valley. So here in France. Okay, here in France, I'll show you. Okay. So this is Rhine Valley. So Rhine Valley means Rhine is a river. So whenever a river appears in the NCERT, so we have to be extra cautious and we need to explore extra information. That is in Europe, through which all countries it passes through. So this is our Rhine River. From here, we understand that it passes through Netherlands, Germany, next Germany, France, Switzerland. Okay, Switzerland. Next, so where is Ost mountain range present? It is present in France. So here in France, we have Ost mountain range. Okay. So this is extra information we have to add. Next, volcanic mountains or volcanic mountains. So where are they present? Examples of volcanic mountains are Mount Kilimanjaro and Mount Fujiyama. So they are formed due to volcanic activity. So whenever a volcano erupts, so as a result of that, whatever the mountains are formed, so we call them as what? Volcanic mountains. So example is Mount Kilimanjaro. So where is Mount Kilimanjaro present? In Tanzania. In Africa, so here we have Tanzania. Here we have Tanzania. So here we find Mount Kilimanjaro. Next, Mount Fujiyama in Japan. So here we have Mount Fujiyama. Okay. So again, important point from exam point of view, they may ask a question by confusing you how Mount Kilimanjaro is a block mountain. If they pose such kind of questions, then that will be wrong. Mount Kilimanjaro is a volcanic mountain. Similarly, Mount Fujiyama is a volcanic mountain. Mount Kilimanjaro is present in Tanzania, Africa, whereas Mount Fujiyama is present in Japan. Next, let us look into the benefits of mountains. How are mountains beneficial for us? So mountains are a storehouse of water. They are a storehouse of water. So when you want to store water, then probably you will try to store it in a container, in a tank. But in order to build a very large tank, it will be a very costly affair. But naturally, so if there are two mountains, then the place in between them, it will become a natural storehouse of water. That's why they are very useful as far as storing of water is concerned. Next, many rivers have their source in the glaciers in mountains. So as we discussed before, especially when it comes to Himalayan mountain ranges, so we have glaciers, and the glaciers present in these Himalayan mountain ranges that act as an important source of water to most of the rivers. Okay, most of the rivers in northern part of India. So in this fashion, so mountains also act as source of rivers as well. Next, reservoirs are made and the water is harnessed for use of people. So already in between the mountain, it acts as a reservoir, natural reservoir. So here some artificial structures will be built and what will store the water, and that stored water we can use it for irrigation and for generation of electricity, hydroelectricity. So in this way, mountains are beneficial. Next, river valleys are ideal for cultivation. So wherever there is a river flowing, so the surrounding area we call it as river valley. So this river valley is ideal for cultivation of crops. Next, mountains generally they have forests also. So whenever we say mountain, so forest is associated with it. So they have a rich variety of flora and fauna. Flora means vegetation, fauna means animals. Okay. So mountains also host a rich variety of flora and fauna. Next, forest provides fuel. So an example of fuel is in our day-to-day life, especially in rural areas, we use fuel for cooking. Okay. Next, fodder it may be for humans or for animals. Next, shelter. So forests especially they provide shelter for what? Animals. Okay, animals. They also provide other products like gum, resins, etc. So in this way also forests are beneficial. Next, they provide what scene for tourists. So most of the tourists they prefer hill stations because of the natural scenic beauty which is present over there, and also they want to explore various sports. It may be like paragliding, hang gliding, river rafting, or skiing. Okay. So let us just look into. So this is paragliding. First one is paragliding, hang gliding, river rafting, skiing. Okay. Most of the tourists they want to explore these sports as well, and in this way, even from tourist point of view, so mountains are beneficial, and they generate what revenue, and it contributes to the economy. Next, plateau. So what is plateau? So this is an example of plateau. So when it comes to plateau, they are not as they are not They do not have a height compared to that of mountains. Okay, so their height is relatively less compared to mountains. And generally, mountains have a conical peak. But here, when it comes to plateau, at a particular height, we find a flat land. Okay, flat land. So such structures we call them as plateaus. Such structures we call them as plateaus. So it is an elevated flat land. An example here indicates it is a flat topped table land standing above the surrounding area. It may have one or more sides with steep slopes, so not important. Height often varies from few hundred meters to several thousand kilometers. Okay, so from few hundred meters to this height may be few hundred meters or several thousand kilometers as well. 1000 meters. Next, they like mountains may be young or old. So already we have seen young mountains as well as old mountains. So when it comes to Aravalli, they were old mountains. When it comes to Himalayas, they are young mountains. Similarly, when it comes to plateaus, they may be young or old. Next, examples of plateaus. Deccan Plateau in India. Okay, so we need to know where exactly this Deccan Plateau is present. Where is this Deccan Plateau present? Okay, so this part, this is Deccan Plateau. So whenever we come across any word, so we should understand where that region is present. Next, East African Plateau, an example of another plateau. So East African Plateau, it is spread across Kenya, Tanzania and Uganda. So where they are present? East African Plateau, an example of another plateau. Next, Western Plateau. Where do we find Western Plateau? Western Plateau is present in Australia. Western Plateau is present in Australia. Next, Tibet Plateau, a very important plateau. Why important? Because the highest plateau in the world. The highest plateau in the world is Tibet Plateau. So where it is located? To the north of India. So here we have Tibet Plateau. This is Tibet Plateau. So height, it varies from 4000 to 6000 meters. So not important. Next, how are plateaus important? We have already seen the benefits of mountains. Similarly, similar to mountains, there are some benefits extended by plateaus as well. So they are very useful. How they are useful? They are rich in mineral deposits. So minerals like what? Iron, core, coal, oil. Okay, all these plateaus are rich in mineral deposits. So many of the mining areas in the world are located in plateau areas. So very important point to note. So most of the mining areas across the globe, so they are located in plateau areas. So example of African Plateau. So this African Plateau, this is rich in gold and diamond. Similarly, if you look at Chota Nagpur Plateau of India, it has what? Huge reserves of iron, coal and manganese. So where is this Chota Nagpur Plateau present? So in India, here we'll find Chota Nagpur Plateau. So as an exercise, what you can do is, you can find out which are the various states of India across which Chota Nagpur Plateau has spread. Okay, is spread. So you'll come to know that there are 5 states, and just try to know which are those 5 states. Okay. So this Chota Nagpur Plateau, it has reserves of iron, coal and manganese. Next, in plateau areas, there are several waterfalls as the river falls from a great height. So in plateau areas, generally we can witness waterfalls as well. So here there is a mention of 2 waterfalls, that is Hundru Falls, another one is Jog Falls. So out of curiosity, we need to add some extra information here, and we have already added it. What is that? So Hundru Falls, it is present across which river? It is present across which river and in which state? So Hundru Falls is present on Subarnrekha River in the state of Jharkhand. So here we will find Hundru Falls. Next, similarly, for Jog Falls, we have added extra information. What is that? It is present across Sharavati River in the state of Karnataka. So in the state of Karnataka, we have Jog Falls. Okay. So these are the extra information that we have to add from exam point of view. Next, lava plateaus are rich in black soil. So very important. So some plateaus we call them as lava plateaus. So they are rich in black soil. So UPSC often focuses on questions like this. It may pose a question like this. So there are different types of soil: black soil, red soil, yellow soil and all. So it may pose a question like lava plateaus are rich in red soil. So if they make such kind of statements, then that will be wrong. So lava plateaus are rich in black soil. That is why they are fertile and good for cultivation. Lava plateaus are good for cultivation because they are fertile. Next, also many plateaus are of scenic spots and of great attraction to tourists. Similar to mountains, so plateaus are also they are very much scenic, and they also attract tourists. They also attract tourists. Next, plains. So we are all aware of plains. So an example of plain. So this is an example of plain. This is an example of plain. So generally not more than 200 meters above the sea level. So compared to mountains and plateaus, the height is very less. So these are plains. So most of the plains are formed by rivers and their tributaries. Okay, rivers and their tributaries. So through what kind of activity? Through erosion and deposition. So already we have seen what is erosion and what is deposition. So generally they are very fertile. When it comes to plains, they are very fertile because continuously there is erosion and deposition. Okay, deposition. Next, most of the population is concentrated in plains compared to mountains and plateaus. Why? The first and foremost very important reason is they are very fertile. So agriculture can be practiced and we can get what? Good yield in plains. That is why most of the population is concentrated in plains. Also, construction of transport network is easy in plains. Now building a railway infrastructure or road infrastructure in mountains or plateaus will be difficult, but in plains it will be easy. So that is why the concentration will be, population concentration will be more in what? Plains. And also another reason is fertile. Okay, we have what? Fertility is more in case of plains. Thus these plains are thickly populated regions of the world. Some of the largest plains made by rivers are found in Asia and North America. Okay, so some of the plains have been mentioned here. So one is the plains found by Ganga and Brahmaputra, and one more is Yangtze. Okay, plains found by Yangtze River. So we came across an international river here, that is Yangtze River. So whenever we come across such kind of rivers, we need to explore for more information, because if you look at the previous year question papers, we already asked about Yangtze. So what kind of information that we need to explore for? We need to know whether this river is present only in China or it flows through any other country. And also we need to know where does it terminate, where does it end, where does it end. So all that information becomes important. So now this is our Yangtze River. So this river completely it flows through China, but where does it terminate? It terminates in what? East China Sea. Very important. Okay. East China Sea. So in order to confuse us, UPSC may pose a question like, so Yangtze River, it ends in South China Sea. So that will be wrong. It ends in what? East China Sea, and it entirely flows through China. Very important point to note. Next, are most useful areas for human habitation. So we know that plains are very useful areas for human habitation because of the multiple reasons that we saw. So easily we can construct infrastructure, and also plains are very fertile. That is why, and also they are very it is easy for us to construct houses in plains. Okay, and also cultivation as we saw before. So because of fertile soils, the land is highly productive for cultivation. In India too, Indo-Gangetic plains are the most wide, densely populated regions of the country. So here we came across a term called as Indo-Gangetic plain. So there is no exact demarcation where is that Indo-Gangetic plain, but at least at the superficial level, we need to understand where is that Indo-Gangetic plain present. So this area we call it as Indo-Gangetic plain. Indo-Gangetic plain. Okay. So in India too, these plains are the most densely populated regions of the country. And if you observe West Bengal and Bihar, so they are one among the densely populated states, and they are located in Indo-Gangetic plains. Indo-Gangetic plains. So in this topic, we discussed about the major landforms. Similarly, in the upcoming classes, we will be discussing about the other important topics related to UPSC. For all our further updates, subscribe to our channel and hit on the bell icon. Thank you.